Welcome back to Contact Pod. Today we're going to be diving into the world of software development services.
Oh, cool.
We all use software every day, right?
Yeah.
But have you ever stopped to think about, the massive industry behind it all?
hmm
Who's actually building those apps, those websites, the platforms we rely on?
Yeah, that's a good question. I never really thought about it.
It's a pretty fascinating world, and
Yeah.
it's exactly what we're going to be exploring today in our deep dive.
Awesome.
Yeah. So today's deep dive is based on this recent market report. It's called, get this, the Software Development Service Market.
Okay.
It not only breaks down what's happening right now in the market,
Right.
but also where things are headed.
Interesting.
Sort of like a crystal ball for the software development industry.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Crystal ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the future is looking bright for software development services.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead,
Yeah.
let's define what we're actually talking about here. What exactly are software development services?
hmm
I mean, the name seems pretty self-explanatory,
Yeah.
but maybe not everyone's familiar with all the ins and outs.
Yeah. Good point.
So what do you think? How would you explain it?
Okay. Well, think of it like building a house, right?
Okay.
You could try to do it all yourself, learn carpentry, plumbing, electrical work.
The whole 9 yards.
Yeah, exactly. But let's be real, that's a lot to take on for one person.
Yeah.
Most people hire contractors who specialize in those areas.
Right. Makes sense.
Software development services are kind of similar. Instead of trying to build your own software from scratch, you hire experts, people who have the skills and experience to create custom solutions for, whatever you need.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
So it's about tapping into that specialized knowledge
Exactly.
instead of trying to become some kind of software superhero yourself.
Yeah. And this market is absolutely exploding right now. I mean, think about all the trends we see every day.
Like what?
Well, like digital transformation,
Right.
the rise of mobile, cloud computing, all that.
Right.
Businesses need to adapt fast to keep up.
Okay.
And that means there's a huge demand for custom software.
Yeah, you're right. It's like every business needs an app now.
Totally. It's not just apps. They need websites, platforms, systems, you name it all, to streamline their operations,
Yeah.
reach new customers,
Yeah.
stay ahead of the competition.
Okay, so we get that it's a big deal, but just how big are we talking?
Oh, this report throws out some numbers that are, well, mind-blowing.
Okay, lay it on me.
It predicts the market will be worth almost $436 billion in 2024.
Wow.
And that's just the beginning. By 2033, it's projected to skyrocket to nearly $1.5 trillion.
Whoa, hold on.
That's a compound annual growth rate of over 14.5%. This industry is on fire.
Seriously.
Seriously.
Those numbers are insane. What does that kind of growth tell us about where the world is headed? I mean, it has to be more than just businesses needing a new app here and there, right?
Yeah, it's way bigger than that. It's a clear sign of just how reliant we are on technology in every aspect of our lives.
Sure.
I mean, the world is becoming increasingly digital,
Yeah.
and businesses are scrambling to keep up. This rapid growth in software development services just shows how vital software has become.
It's everywhere. Okay, so here's where things get interesting.
Okay.
The report highlights how the COVID-19 pandemic actually boosted the software development services market. I would have thought it would have the opposite effect,
Yeah.
Businesses struggling, everyone tightening their belts. What happened?
You're right. It seems counterintuitive at first.
Mm-hmm.
But the pandemic, it kind of forced a massive shift in how we work and interact.
Oh, yeah?
Suddenly, businesses needed new digital solutions,
Yeah.
and they needed them fast.
Right.
Think about the explosion of video conferencing platforms like Zoom,
Oh, yeah. Zoom, for sure.
or, the surge in demand for collaboration tools like Microsoft Teams and Viva.
Right.
The report specifically mentions those as major drivers of growth during the pandemic.
Wow. So the pandemic basically forced everyone to adapt to a digital-first world,
Yeah, pretty much.
which then led to a huge demand for software solutions, which then fueled the growth of this market.
Exactly. Necessity is the mother of invention, right?
But on a global scale.
Exactly. And speaking of invention, let's talk about the trends shaping the future of this market. One of the biggest is the growing demand for customized software.
Yeah, it seems like businesses are moving away from those generic, one-size-fits-all software packages. Why is that?
Think about it this way. As businesses become more specialized,
Yeah,
their needs also become more complex.
makes sense.
Off-the-shelf software just doesn't cut it anymore for a lot of them.
Right.
Custom software allows companies to create solutions that are, like, tailor-made for their unique processes and goals.
Gotcha.
Imagine if you had a specific problem you needed to solve, and you wish there was an app for that. That's what custom software development can do.
So it's like having a software developer on call to create your dream app.
Pretty much. It's all about finding the perfect solution for your specific needs.
Okay, so what other trends are we seeing out there?
Well, there's the rise of open source solutions. They're becoming increasingly popular because they offer businesses more flexibility and can be more cost effective.
Right, open source. I've heard of that.
And then there's the explosion of chatbots.
Oh, chatbots.
Yeah, and AI-powered tools designed to improve customer service and automate tasks.
Right. Those things are everywhere now.
They are. And one more trend to watch out for is the growing demand for PaaS, or Platform as a Service solutions.
Pause. Okay, what's that?
This is where businesses can essentially rent the infrastructure and tools they need to develop and deploy their own software without having to build everything from scratch.
So it's like getting a pre-built software development kit.
Exactly. You get all the building blocks you need, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Okay, cool. So we've covered some of the trends, but what's really driving this incredible growth? Is it just the trends we talked about, or is there something bigger at play here?
Well, those trends are definitely a huge part of it, but the report points to two key drivers: the explosion of mobile devices and the ever-growing dominance of cloud computing.
Mobile devices and cloud computing. Okay.
Think about your own life. How many hours a day are you on your smartphone?
Probably too many to count.
And how many of the apps you use are cloud-based?
Pretty much all of them, I think. It's been ages since I actually installed software on my computer.
Right. So the proliferation of mobile devices has created a massive demand for, you guessed it, mobile apps.
Yeah.
Businesses need apps for everything these days to connect with customers, manage their operations, pretty much run their entire business.
It's true. And the cloud provides the infrastructure and tools to develop and deploy these apps quickly and efficiently.
Exactly. It's like a perfect storm of factors all converging to create this boom in the software development services market.
Wow. It sounds amazing, but I'm guessing it's not all sunshine and roses, right? There have to be challenges too.
You're absolutely right. It's not all smooth sailing. The report specifically mentions the high cost of custom software development as a major barrier, especially for smaller businesses.
Yeah, that makes sense. Building custom software can be a pretty significant investment.
Right. And not every company has the resources to make it happen.
It's like building that custom dream house we talked about earlier. Sure, it's fantastic, but it can also come with a hefty price tag.
Exactly. What about regional differences? Does this market look the same all over the world?
That's a good question.
Actually, the report points out some interesting regional variations. Right now, North America is leading the pack when it comes to market share.
Oh, really? Why is that?
Well, there are a few reasons. North America has a high concentration of software companies,
Okay.
strong demand for data networks and cloud solutions, and a high adoption rate for new technologies.
So they're kind of on the cutting edge.
Exactly. Plus, they have a huge pool of tech talent, which is essential for driving innovation in this sector.
So it's like a tech powerhouse, really.
Yeah, you could say that.
So who are the major players in this global software development game? Any familiar names in the mix?
Oh, absolutely. You've got the giants like IBM, Google, Microsoft, Oracle. Those are some of the heavy hitters. But here's the interesting part. It's not just about the big guys.
So there's hope for the little guy.
Totally. There's a whole ecosystem of smaller players, startups, and boutique firms that are innovating and competing in this market. They often specialize in niche areas or offer more personalized services, which can be really appealing to certain businesses.
So it's a dynamic and diverse market with room for both the giants and the smaller, more specialized companies. Okay, let's take a quick recap of what we've learned so far. What do you think?
Sure. We've seen that the software development services market is experiencing explosive growth,
Yeah.
driven by things like digital transformation, the need for custom solutions, and the rise of mobile and cloud computing.
Mm.
We've also talked about some of the trends shaping the future of the market, like the growing popularity of open source solutions
Right.
and the increasing demand for platform as a service solutions.
Okay.
We've also learned that while North America is currently leading the market, it's a global phenomenon with key players ranging from tech giants to smaller, specialized firms. But it's not all smooth sailing.
Right.
Challenges like the high cost of custom software development can create barriers for some businesses.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this has been a fascinating look behind the curtain of the software development industry.
Hmm.
I'm really starting to see the complexity and the amount of work that goes into creating the software we use every day.
I agree. And before we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to consider the bigger picture here.
Okay, the bigger picture, what do you mean?
Well, think about how software is transforming literally every aspect of our lives: how we work, how we communicate, how we shop, how we entertain ourselves, you name it. There's software involved.
Yeah, it's true.
And the software development services industry is driving this digital revolution. They're creating the tools and platforms that are shaping the future.
It's like they're the architects of the digital world.
They really are. And as
Mhm.
this market keeps growing, it's going to create new opportunities,
Yeah.
new challenges,
Mhm.
and new possibilities that we can only begin to imagine. It's a pretty exciting time to be involved in this industry.
It is exciting to think about what the future holds for this whole field. But before we get carried away with futuristic visions, let's bring it back down to earth for a minute and talk about some practical takeaways for our listeners.
Welcome back to Contact Pod. In the last segment, we talked about the explosive growth of the software development services market and the trends shaping its future. Now let's dive a little deeper into some of the nuances of this industry.
All right, nuance time. Hit me
Yeah.
with it. What are we looking at first?
Let's talk about the different types of software development services out there. It's not a one-size-fits-all market. Companies specialize in different areas: web development, mobile app development, enterprise, software, cloud solutions, you name it.
So it's like a choose your own adventure for software development. How does a business even know which type of service they need?
It all comes down to their specific goals and what they're trying to achieve. Do they need a customer-facing app, a complex back-end system? Maybe they're looking to migrate everything to the cloud. The first step is to figure out exactly what you want the software to do.
Okay, so define your goals first, got it. But then how do you actually choose the right software development company? It seems like there are a million options out there.
You're not wrong. There's definitely a lot of competition. It's important to do your research. Look at their portfolio, read reviews, talk to other businesses that have used their services, get a feel for their track record.
It's like hiring any other professional,
Yeah, right.
right? Check references, look at past work, make sure their style is a good fit for what you need.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask tough questions. Ask about their process, their experience with similar projects, how they handle communication and feedback, all that good stuff.
Communication is key in any project, but especially in software development where things can get pretty complex pretty fast.
Couldn't agree more. And that brings us to another important piece of the puzzle: the software development lifecycle. It's a structured approach to managing these projects from start to finish, from the initial planning and figuring out what's needed, all the way to launching the software and keeping it running smoothly.
So it's like a roadmap for the whole project. What are the key stages?
Well, it typically starts with defining the scope of the project. This is where you figure out the features, who the target users are, and what your budget and timeline look like. Then comes the design phase, where you create the user interface and the overall architecture of the software.
That's where the creative juices start flowing.
Exactly. Then you move into the actual development phase, where the code gets written and the software is built. After that comes testing. This is where you put the software through its paces, check for bugs, and make sure everything's working as it should.
Testing is critical. You don't want your shiny new app crashing on launch day.
Absolutely not. Once everything is thoroughly tested and you're happy with it, you're ready for deployment, which means making it available to users. But even after you launch, the work isn't over. There's ongoing maintenance and support to make sure the software keeps running smoothly and gets updated with new features and security patches as needed.
So it's a continuous cycle: develop, test, deploy, maintain, and then do it all over again.
Pretty much. And there are different methodologies for managing this whole life cycle, like Agile Waterfall or a hybrid approach. Which one you choose depends on the project and how the development team likes to work.
Sounds like there are a lot of options and decisions to make along the way. Managing a software development project can be pretty intense, huh?
It definitely can be. That's why having a skilled and experienced team is essential, and having a clear process in place makes all the difference.
Speaking of challenges, let's circle back to one we touched on earlier: the high cost of custom software development. The report highlighted this as a real barrier, especially for smaller businesses.
It's true. Costs can vary wildly depending on how complex the project is, how many features are involved, what platform it's being built for, and even the experience level of the developers.
So something like a simple mobile app would be less expensive to develop than a complex enterprise software system.
Generally speaking, yes. But there are ways to manage the costs. Things like using open source tools and frameworks, prioritizing the essential features, and breaking down the project into smaller phases can help keep things more manageable.
So it's about being strategic and finding creative solutions that fit your budget.
Exactly. You don't have to break the bank to get great software.
What about other challenges? Does the report mention something about security concerns? Is that a big deal in software development?
Security is absolutely huge, Gigi. Cyber attacks are getting more sophisticated all the time, so it's crucial to think about security right from the beginning.
It's like building a house with strong locks and a top-notch security system. You don't want to make it easy for someone to break in.
Exactly. Security needs to be baked into every stage of the development process, from the initial design and coding to testing and deployment.
And with so much reliance on cloud computing these days, are there specific security challenges related to that?
Definitely. When you're storing and processing data in the cloud, it's essential to choose a reputable provider with strong security measures. You also need to implement your own security protocols and make sure your data is encrypted and protected.
So it's a shared responsibility between the cloud provider and the software developer to make sure everything is locked down tight.
You got it. And beyond security, there are other hurdles like finding and keeping skilled developers, managing project timelines, and making sure everyone's communicating effectively throughout the process. These are all things that can make or break a project.
So it sounds like navigating the world of software development services requires a mix of technical know-how, business smarts, and good old-fashioned communication skills.
You hit the nail on the head. It's a multifaceted field that requires a well-rounded approach.
Well, this has been a fascinating look behind the curtain of the software development industry. I'm really starting to see the complexity and the amount of work that goes into creating the software we use every day.
I agree. And before we wrap up this deep dive, I think it's important to consider the bigger picture here.
You're right. It's not just about lines of code and technical jargon. What's the real-world impact of all this?
Think about how software is transforming literally every aspect of our lives, how we work, communicate, shop, entertain ourselves. You name it, there's software involved. The software development services industry is driving this digital revolution. They're creating the tools and platforms that are shaping the future.
It's like they're the architects of the digital world.
They really are. And as this market keeps growing, it's going to create new opportunities, new challenges, and new possibilities that we can only begin to imagine. It's a pretty exciting time to be involved in this industry.
It is exciting to think about what the future holds for this whole field. But before we get carried away with futuristic visions, let's bring it back down to earth for a minute and talk about some practical takeaways for our listeners. Okay, so listeners, welcome back to Contact Pod for the final part of our deep dive into the world of software development services. We've talked about the trends, the challenges, the different types of services,
Right.
but let's bring it all home. What does this all mean for you, our amazing tech-savvy audience?
You know, one of the coolest things about this industry is that it's always changing. New technologies are always coming out, new approaches to development, and the demand for skilled people keeps growing.
So it sounds like a good time to be a software developer, or at least thinking about a career in software development.
Absolutely. If you're someone who likes tech, loves solving problems, and enjoys the challenge of building something new, software development could be a great path.
You know, and even if you're not planning on becoming a developer yourself, I think just understanding this industry is so valuable. We're all users of software, so knowing how it's made, what the challenges are, what trends to watch for, it just makes you a more informed consumer.
That's such a good point. Think about how much you rely on software every single day. Understanding how it all works gives you a deeper appreciation for how complex it is, the ingenuity behind it all.
It's like, knowing how a car engine works, right? You don't have to be a mechanic to drive a car.
Yeah.
But understanding the basics, it makes you a more informed and confident driver.
Exactly. And as businesses continue to invest more in software, it's important to understand the process, the cost, the potential risks and rewards.
Right.
Whether you're a business owner, an employee, or just someone who's interested in tech, this knowledge can be really empowering.
I love that. Empowerment through knowledge. Okay, so as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that software development is so much more than just writing code. It's a creative process, it's collaborative, and it's a force that is shaping the world around us.
Beautifully said. So if our listeners are feeling inspired to learn more about this industry, maybe explore the possibilities, maybe even consider a career in software development, where would you recommend they start?
Ooh, there are tons of resources out there. You've got coding boot camps, online courses, communities of developers online sharing their knowledge. Don't be afraid to just dive in and explore, ask questions. The world of software development is vast, it's constantly evolving, so there's always something new to learn.
It's like a giant playground for tech enthusiasts. And who knows, maybe one of our listeners will be the next software development superstar, create the next game-changing app or platform.
I wouldn't be surprised. The potential is limitless. So, to all our listeners out there, what kind of software would you create if you could? What problem would it solve? What impact would it have on the world?
Those are some great questions to ponder. And on that note, that wraps up this deep dive into the world of software development services. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Contech Pod for more explorations into the fascinating world of technology.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep innovating.